Yo, we are shot out of a cannon on this Monday morning. It is the debut episode here of Donno and Daniels here on the Miami Sports Music Network. Alex Donno alongside the great Stephen D, a.k.a. Stephen Daniels. Use the hashtag Donno and Daniels on social media to tweet about the show. By the way, we are so humbled to see how many people are already using the live chat, reacting to the NFL playoff games over the past couple of days. Miami Dolphins need a head coach. We're going to talk about that throughout. Guys, do not forget, smash that like button, hit that like button, hit that super chat, and donate to the channel. And make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Sign up to become an MSM YouTube member. So without further ado, you guys know I'm Alex Donno. Let me bring in the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen D. Stephen D, how you doing, sir?
I've been dreaming about this day for years, man. You have no idea. I've been reminiscing and dreaming about this day that we get to do a show together, you and I.
I love it, man. And Steven today, he's got the professional setup. I'm basically relegated to a closet because I've been dealing with Omicron. Not so bad, but I'm trying like not to infect other people. So I have like sequestered myself to the dark far corner of the house, and I've been watching football, and I've been dreaming about getting among the living outside in the world again. We'll get to that point eventually, but man, if there was ever a weekend, Steve, to get stuck inside watching football, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, I am reminded year after year after year after year, that is, for my money, the best weekend of football that you can absolutely get, my friend. I mean, wild card weekend last week, you get more games now with the super wild card. You get 6 games, but most of those games were non-competitive.
They were all bad. They were all
bad. Like those games were primarily blowouts. This past weekend, we get crazy. The biggest margin of victory we had in any of these games was in an overtime game. So it's not like the game wasn't close. A 6-point margin of victory, KC over Buffalo last night in overtime. All the other 3 games were decided by 3 points. You had Bengals 19-16 over the Titans, the first game on Saturday. 49ers 13-10 against the Packers. Rams 30-27 against the Buccaneers, who nearly pulled off a ridiculous comeback. And then last night in overtime, which was, I don't think there's any question, that was the best game of the weekend, Steve. You had the quarterback duel, the 2 quarterbacks who are, arguably in the best form in the entire NFL. You had Josh Allen and you had Patrick Mahomes. I honestly, neither of those quarterbacks deserved to lose that game last night, but it was Mahomes and the Chiefs who got the home victory in OT.
In the last 2 minutes of the game plus overtime, I mean, it was insane. I want to say there was like 20 some odd points scored plus, maybe 30. It was absolutely insane. And the one thing that I'll say is I don't think any other game moving forward, and that includes the Super Bowl, is going to be as good as the game was last night. I really mean that. I really think the winner
early.
It did, man. And I look at both of those teams, and it's funny because now all of a sudden Buffalo 2 years in a row have been eliminated by Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And you have to start to wonder, what can Buffalo do to get over that hump? And after somebody beats you the way that you've been beaten twice like that in the NFL playoffs, you start to realize, okay, is there something bigger going on? Are we cursed? Can we not get over that? And so, look, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL for a reason. And, with that being said, I'm watching the game last night with my wife. Overtime comes up and the coin toss happened. And I tweeted this out and I said, who the hell calls tails? My wife and I both said this at the same time. Who calls tails?
You know who does? I call tails. Tails never fails,
bro. No,
tails never fails.
Well, you and Josh Allen both would have failed because it did last night. I said whoever wins the coin toss is going to win the game. And I was right because, the way the NFL overtime rules are, applied. I mean, 2 things. Number one, it's a shame that the NFL has not adopted better overtime rules. Let's just get that straight. But the other thing that I think is interesting, too, is, the way both offenses were playing, whoever got that ball first was going to go down and score.
Yeah.
There was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you were thinking like during regulation, it was like whoever gets it last will win this game. Okay, whoever got it last tied the game, and then whoever gets it first in overtime is going to win. But no, I mean, serious question. And Yeah, he says you call tails in Madden, not in real life.
No doubt.
How is that different? I mean, it's the same 50-50 shot, whether it's Madden or real life, man. Tails never fails. That's one of those things
It
I've been
does
saying all
fail,
my life.
Alex. There's a reason that it fails.
Why, like, what is your scientific reason why you never
You
call
call
tails?
heads. You call heads every time, Alex. Like my wife and I simultaneously we weren't thinking it. We didn't even look at each other. We both said word for word, "Who the hell calls tails?" And we laughed because we both said it at the same time. But we knew it. We knew the moment it happened. We were like, "Yep." Yeah, like it's a wrap. Like they're going to lose this game, and they did. And it's a shame because Buffalo played one heck of it. No team last night deserved any of the they didn't deserve to lose.
No, they didn't.
But there had to be a winner and there had to be a loser. I personally think the NFL at minimum should adopt that both teams get a possession at minimum, no matter what the result is.
Yeah, whether it's because it used they've tweaked it enough. Like it used to be, you could win the game with an immediate field goal, and then they changed that where it's like, okay, if you hit the field goal the first drive, then the team can answer. Now it's touchdown only. Obviously, I don't necessarily think the college overtime would be perfect for the NFL.
That's a bad one.
Like that, because the college overtime is kind of gimmicky, where they give it to you at the 25.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I think I don't like because it's not really football. Like it's not really football if you just give them the football at the 25. Like do it the way you do it now. But like you said, even if one team scores a touchdown, give the other team an immediate chance to answer. At least let both teams have one possession.
Well, little side note, 2018 during NFL or during owners meeting, there's always the rule changes, where teams can request to have a rule change and it can get voted on unanimously. There was a one done by the Kansas City Chiefs that both teams should have an possession in overtime, no matter the outcome. And obviously it didn't get voted, but man, Kansas City almost screwed themselves.
They almost did.
Out of a win last night in 2018. But I do think that the NFL should adopt both possessions both teams having a possession in football and overtime. I mean, I personally think that's the way it is. But you know what? That wasn't even the best part of the weekend for me. You know what the best part of the weekend was for me?
What was the best part of the weekend?
Tom Brady losing.
See, okay, here's where this is the first disagreement we're going to have on this show. I am such a big Tom Brady fan. And
you're breaking up. I couldn't hear you. Did you just say you were a Tom Brady fan?
I am a Tom Brady fanboy because I appreciate greatness. Okay. And here's the thing, Steve. I was so glad the day that Tom Brady left the Patriots and I could stop pretending I hated that guy and he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was one of the best days of my life. How long was he in New England? Like 17,
20
years?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, about 20 years. So I had to, for the first 20 years of his career, I had to pretend I wasn't fanboying out to Tom Brady. Then finally he left the division rival. I'm like, okay, this guy, what is he, 44 years old? And he still is at the peak of his powers, a Super Bowl victory at 43. What is not to like about Tom Brady? That comment. The show just lost ratings. I'm bored immediately. But here's, guys, you have to appreciate and understand this, okay? Yeah, I was a closeted Brady fan. You have to understand, I've missed certain aspects, important aspects of NFL history. I was not born until 12 years after the perfect season, right? So I missed that part of NFL history. I have had the privilege of living through for most of my adult life has been during the era of the greatest quarterback of all time playing football. And I consider myself honored to have been alive through the Tom Brady era. Will there be another greatest of all time to come after Tom Brady? Maybe, hopefully a future Miami Dolphins quarterback, but I consider myself privileged to have been around for the entirety so far of Tom Brady. He may keep playing longer than I'm alive. I don't know. The guy is ageless, so I appreciate it. Oh, at least I get what. Put up that comment from 1, 2, 3, 4 Epps.
Oh, don't let Epps agree with you. Epps agreeing with you is like the equivalent of kissing your sister. It's like a tie. Okay.
Listen, let me lay this down. Well, let me lay this down so people don't.
It's not acceptable, as 1, 2, 3, 4 Epps would say. People who watch the morning show regularly on here. He gets mad very easily.
I
Epps
love
gets
you.
mad
Thank you
very
for the
easily.
agreement. No, people have to understand. I never rooted for the Patriots while he was there. I certainly never rooted for Tom Brady to beat the Miami Dolphins. But I always thought this guy is great. I appreciate it, but I can't root for him because he's a New England Patriot. Then when he left the Patriots and left the conference to go over to Tampa Bay, I said, okay, finally, I can now openly root for this guy.
Look, people are throwing virtual tomatoes at you. I just need you to know that, bro. I can't get on with you. The masses have spoken, Alex, and it's not good for you. Okay. I look personally. I just, it's funny because we look at the AFC East. Here's something else that is very, very interesting. The AFC East. There are only 3 teams in the Super Bowl era to go to the Super Bowl 3 times in a row. The Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills, and the New England Patriots.
Wow.
Are the only 3 teams in Super Bowl era to go to the Super Bowl 3 times.
And the loser
at
Bills
least 3
couldn't
times.
even get one.
And they couldn't even get one. And so, it's interesting that the AFC East, for the last 20 years, we've been looking up to Tom Brady and the Patriots. We thought we had them finally done, and we swept them this year as Dolphins fans. And now all of a sudden we look and Buffalo's at the top of that rate, but they can't get past Kansas City in the playoffs to save their lives. And
Right.
So, by the way, Kansas City going to 4 straight AFC championship games.
Yeah,
there's something to be said about that there too.
That is right. They've
Mahomes is legit.
Yeah, and do you remember, what were we talking about? I mean, not necessarily you and me, but what was everybody talking about for the first handful of games this season? Like, something's wrong with Kansas City. Mahomes not what he used to be, and then they figured it out. And you saw on display last night, the 2 most elite young quarterbacks in the NFL. I say young because obviously you still have even though Rodgers got eliminated and Brady got eliminated. So maybe what we're looking at now is the changing of the guard, right?
Well,
although Brady and Rodgers are still fantastic.
Let's talk about Saturday's games real quick. We talked a little bit about yesterday's games. 49ers going into Green Bay and beating them is absolutely insane because, I thought about, I was like, Rodgers isn't losing. Not at minimum until the championship game,
Certainly
if not the Super
home.
Bowl.
Yeah.
No way. But he is 0-4 against the 49ers in the playoffs.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
The 49ers are Aaron Rodgers' kryptonite.
Yep. Is that our guy Mike McDaniel, who the Dolphins are looking at? Well, even not only did Garoppolo didn't have to do that much, even the San Francisco vaunted running game didn't really explode. They had 116 rushing yards. Jimmy Garoppolo had 131 passing yards in the game, and you notice and obviously that was a fantastic team win by San Francisco. And San Francisco, they're such a well-constructed unit that that's the sort of team, the 49ers, that can get this far. They're 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and they've been to a Super Bowl before with this quarterback where they obviously do not have elite quarterbacking, okay? So that's one of those things, Steve, where the two-and-ears can look at San Francisco and say, there it is. There's proof that you don't need an elite quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. There is the San Francisco 49ers, case in point. If we can build our team like that, we can get there with Tua.
They went out and spent a 3rd-round draft pick, on Trey Lance. And Trey Lance has been sitting backup, and Jimmy Garoppolo's been playing.
Yeah.
And, there's something to be said of that. You're 100% right. And I know that within the Miami Dolphins fan base, there's always that you need an above-average quarterback. You need an elite quarterback. There are teams, Garoppolo being one of them, and the 49ers being one of them, saying, well, not necessarily. You just need somebody who isn't going to lose you the game the way Ryan Tannehill did yesterday.
Oh, my God.
On Saturday. By the way, Tennessee fans were killing Tannehill on Twitter. They were burning his jersey.
They finally know what we knew already.
We knew all along about Tannehill. 3 interceptions, 1 to start the game, 1 at the beginning of the second half, and the very last throw of the game for him. All interceptions, which ultimately led to them losing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was it was really, really tough, right? And also
Burrow getting sacked 9 times and still winning.
Still winning. Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, so you can give Burrow did something that our guy Tua Tagovailoa couldn't do, and that was, but it was obviously in and I'll be fair here. I don't want the Tuaneers coming after me because when the Dolphins got smacked by Tennessee a few weeks back, not only did Tua play very poorly, the entire team played very poorly. The coaching did not have a game plan to play in bad weather, so I'm not going to compare the two games. It's pretty funny how Zach Taylor, who coaches Cincinnati, he's a former Miami Dolphins quarterback coach. And when he got that Cincinnati job, I'm thinking, this is the guy? Like, that's the guy they want? He's actually turned out to be a pretty good head coach in this league. So all the credit goes out there to Zach Taylor. But no, going back to Ryan Tannehill, now in Tennessee, they're starting to realize this guy is a fraud. This guy is a glorified game manager. But the big problem, Steve, with Tannehill, and this is a problem with Tannehill in a way that it's not a problem with Tua Tagovailoa, is Tannehill is very, very highly paid. I mean, this guy has a giant salary cap number, right? I mean, at least with Tua Tagovailoa, he's still, in my eyes, he's still a game manager. He's not fully developed yet, and I hope that with better offensive pieces, he does develop. But he's still on his rookie deal. He's not
100%.
taking up much of that salary cap, whereas Ryan Tannehill, he's the highest paid player on that team. He's sucking up a big number, so he is limiting what they can build around him right now, and they're finally realizing this guy can only take us so far, that this guy, in the context of our excellent running game, excellent offensive line, and usually excellent defense, this guy can get us a couple of rounds into the playoffs. They did get to the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago, but he's not going to get us over that hump. He's not going to be getting us past quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and he's certainly, not beating somebody like, Matthew Stafford. If he gets to the Super Bowl, he's having a nice year. Tannehill is not the guy to beat these people.
Look, I as far as Ryan Tannehill's concerned, I have always said and again, I probably might get killed for saying this too, but I don't care. He's a fraud. He is a fraud.
100%.
And I have said that for years. I like the guy, got nothing personally against him. I'm just saying he's not the guy I would have ever wanted running my team. And we would be in the same position today, whether it was him or Tua. And, look, I think that it goes back into the Dolphins Twitter sphere, or the Twitter fear, whatever you want to call it, that everybody's got their own version of what the Dolphins should have done and should do. And I don't know if anybody has the right decision on what the next step is for the Dolphins, but we'll get into that in a minute. I do want to talk about something before we get into the next subject real quick, Alex. I want to remind people, it's the Miami Sports Music Podcast Network. And this isn't the only show that we have up here. We got an amazing slate of shows for you. Let me do a quick rundown. As you know, Donno and Daniels live on Mondays at 9:30. You're in it right now, the debut episode.
Double D.
Tap that like button, share on Twitter, share on Instagram, Facebook. Let people know that we're here. We can't grow without you. Also, want to remind you, Clock Blockers, home of the #1 Miami fan morning show, every Tuesday through Friday morning, starting at 9 a.m. Clock Blockers is not going anywhere. Tomorrow night, making another debut show on the network, the Miami Sports Music Power Hour. It'll have myself, Cameron Scott from East 32, and Jamie Bahamas from 305 Sports and Miami Sports Music. So it'll be the Miami Sports Music crew just doing an hour leading up into the Spanish podcast, Hellfins, from the guys from Mexico. Live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m., Hellfins, a Spanish-speaking Miami Dolphins podcast. Make sure y'all check that out. Also, I want to remind you guys, second week of February, the Fire and Ice Combat Sports Show is coming back starting on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. So that will be back the second week of February. Make sure you guys tune in for that. Also, Wednesday nights made its debut show last week, the Fins Tailgate Show with my man Chris El Capitan, El Presidente, El Capitan.
I love Chris.
Chris is such a great guy, and he has a great show, and I'm so happy he's a part of the network here. He's got this show on Wednesday night, and then on Friday nights, he has a sports betting show called Covering the Spread with the Fins Tailgate crew. So make sure you check that out. And I just want to remind you all about Clock Blockers coming up. Tomorrow's show, we got Daniel Oyefusi of the Miami Herald and the Dolphins Report. And Wednesday, I got my man Xavier Scruggs from ESPN doing back-to-back a baseball segment, which will become a regular weekly bi-weekly actually segment on the channel, and my man David DeWark doing a Panthers update. And then obviously it's Wildin' Out Wednesday and Mortal Kombat Wednesday, and people go a little crazy for that here on the show. So make sure you guys check that out. I just wanted to throw that out there before we got into anything else, man. What's next up to talk about tonight, man?
Well, first, I want to mention on one of those promos, I'm trying to learn Spanish so I can go on Hellfins as a guest, because somebody from there reached out to me and asked me if I habla de español, and I don't, like, I could maybe put a few sentences together because I speak Italian pretty well and they're somewhat similar. I'm also kind of a failure, Steve, because I've lived in Miami for the majority of my 37 years on this planet, and I'm not conversational in Spanish. I feel like I failed at life. I only know how to order coffee.
You live in Miami. You should know Spanish, bro.
You should, right? Like I know how to, I know the important things. I know how to order coffee. I know how to order food, and I know how to ask where the restroom is. And that's about it, man. Oh, and I told you, Chris Adams is my guy.
Awesome.
He says, awesome. What's up, guys? Been looking forward to this all weekend. Well, okay. I do want to have, before we talk about Dolphins head coaching candidates, I do want to talk a little bit about quarterbacking, because I noticed a comment come in from my dude, Lance McDonald, who said, if Tannehill is a fraud, then Tua is a bigger one. Now, obviously, I will admit, Steve, when I'm watching last night, and I know that the majority of teams in the NFL would kill to have quarterbacking this elite, but I'm watching Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes last night, and throughout that game, I'm thinking, we just don't have enough to beat either of these guys. Like I wish I could get and I even said that to you in a text this morning. Like, we need a quarterback like this, because how are we ever going to get out of the AFC? And these guys are both in their mid-20s, Josh. Yeah, it's not like Tom Brady where they're 50. Like, these guys are both in their mid-20s. Like, how are we ever going to get by Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes? Well, now, I want to make something clear on my take on Tua, Steve, in that I consider myself a Tua skeptic, and I'm working on starting like a new, I'm going to call it a religion, because I'm trying to get tax exempt status from the government, but I'm working on this new movement that I'm going to refer to as the Tua scientists. Okay. Because my opinions on Tua Tagovailoa, I try to keep them agenda free. Completely agenda free, because I think a lot of the extremists on both sides, they have an agenda. I think a lot of the Tua haters have an agenda that they really wanted Deshaun Watson. I think a lot of the Tuaneers have an opposite agenda, where the night Tua was drafted, they cried tears of joy and they bought like $800 worth of Tua merchandise, and they just think he's a really nice kid, so they want him to succeed, and everything they talk about is agenda driven. I want to completely eliminate the agendas. Like the Tua scientists, our movement, and we are accepting donations, tax-exempt donations, okay? Our movement is designed to evaluate Tua Tagovailoa, decide if he's the guy who can take the Dolphins to the promised land without any biases, right? We embrace the possibility of excuses, because he's had very poor offensive line play, poor running game. We also do embrace his limitations, right? Because the guy doesn't have a rocket arm, below average arm by NFL standards, below average size, which could lead him to getting hurt more often than a lot of players. We mix the good and the bad together, and we approach this with the scientific method. We are Tua scientists. So I want to get that out of the way. I don't hate the kid. I don't love the kid. I'm a Miami Dolphin fan, long suffering, and I want to win Super Bowls. Now, what I think is going to happen this coming season, Steven, is if the promised land is the couch during the playoffs, then yes, he can get us there. Well, maybe the promised land for Tua is the golf course, because he seems to enjoy doing a lot of that. But no. See,
well, you are just starting stuff, bro. For no reason. On day one, you just want to start stuff.
So what I think is going to happen this coming season, and it's probably the right thing, I do not believe that the Dolphins are going to be trading for Deshaun Watson this offseason. I think that with his biggest advocate being Flores no longer here, I think the Dolphins are going to stay the course. I also don't believe the Dolphins would be serious contenders to acquire Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. And I don't think this is a great quarterback draft, especially since, hey, we got the 49ers first round pick. And these guys, it might be the 32nd pick if they keep going the way that they're going. Oh, thank you. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 Eps. I love you as well. Okay. So I think what's going to happen next year, Steven, and even though I'm not a Tuaneer, I'm okay with this. Next season, Tua Tagovailoa is your quarterback. 2022, yes. It is Tua Tagovailoa's job, okay? I believe they're going to be hiring a head coach who wants to work with him, because I think that's part of their criteria for finding a new coach. They're going to find a head coach who wants to work with Tua and who they believe is going to formulate offensive game plans that are designed to put him in a position to succeed. I think the front office is going to prioritize hopefully fixing the offensive line. I mean, it hasn't been fixed in 20 years, so I can't expect they're just going to magically fix it in 1 year, but they're going to try to fix the offensive line. They're going to put some emphasis in actually improving the running game. And so what's going to happen is they're going to have a head coach who's going to put a lot of effort and resources into making Tua a better quarterback and hopefully put him in a better position to be evaluated so we no longer have excuses. And then after next season, then hopefully they give the front office and the head coach the freedom to say, okay, 3 years now of Tua. We've put him in a better situation year 3 to evaluate. Now we can actually take stock and decide, do we give him a year 4 or now do we start looking in the other direction? So I think he is going to be your quarterback this coming year.
You said a lot of nonsense. And what I really want to do is play the Billy Madison reference. At no point in your entire rambling process did you even remotely sound like you made a point. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Okay? That's what I want to say to you right now.
If Epps agreed with me, that's all that matters.
Well, look, you can have my boy Epps, all right? I'm just saying. Here's a reality that you need to realize, man. Shout out to Chad Smith with the $5 donation. What you have to realize is this weekend did nothing but confuse the fan base more. And here's why, right? We go out and we look at what Aaron Rodgers did, and he loses Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers, right?
Right.
We see a quarterback who has no offensive line that at the end of the day maybe even has a worse offensive line than we do, gets sacked 9 times in a game, and they still win the game. So for people, including myself, let me just throw myself in there, who said, we need to see a real offensive line and allow Tua an opportunity to put people around him to better evaluate him.
Yeah.
But what I will say is I don't know what the right decision is moving forward, because if you have a chance to upgrade at the quarterback position, I am of the mindset, go do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by the way, after this weekend's losses, if you asked me 3 days ago, Rodgers is staying in Green Bay for the rest of his career. And I said that on my morning show. Now, I'm not sold as much. You lose again in the end of the year. Look, I mean, he might want to go somewhere. And then he says in the post-game press conference, hey, I don't want to be here for a rebuild.
Right.
And the Dolphins aren't necessarily on a rebuild at this point, depending on who they get as head coach. Right? So you have to realize there are so many different maneuvers of all these other workings within the NFL that will probably dictate the direction that this franchise go. One of them being, where do we go as a head coach? So I don't even want to get on the quarterback play till we know who our head coach is going to be.
Right.
Now, Brian Daboll obviously loses this weekend. For the record, I don't want Daboll.
Neither do I, but I think he's going to get.
I think he's the favorite within Ross and Greer's camp. As a matter of fact, I would love to have Leslie Frazier over Brian Daboll. And my reasoning and thinking of that is, if you look at, I want a former head coach who knows how to put a coaching staff together, who's been around. And I would say no to Daboll, but I would say yes to Leslie Frazier. I would say no to Mike McDaniel, but I would say yes to Vance Joseph. I would say yes to anybody who's been a head coach.
I don't want Vance Joseph, but a big reason why I don't want Vance Joseph is
I'd settle with Vance. I wouldn't be mad.
It should, if it's like your third or fourth choice and a bunch of people say no. Well, the thing is, like, Stephen Ross has to be because I know Stephen Ross thinks about business, right? I know he thinks about, what's going to excite the fan base. How do you sell to your fan base? Hey, I'm hiring a head coach who worked under Adam Gase, 5 years ago. Like that's a hard sell to the fan base. And listen, and I covered Vance Joseph, and I can remember 2016 when he spent 1 year with Miami as Adam Gase's defensive coordinator. And I remember looking forward to Vance Joseph's media sessions because I thought this guy, like he actually
he's got it. He's got the goods.
He's got the goods. Like I thought this guy actually, he's got the temperament to be a head coach. Like he seemed to have that kind of an it.
What happened to him in Denver, bro? Be honest. What happened to him in Denver?
He failed.
But he never had a quarterback there.
No, you're right. You're right.
Never had a quarterback
he have one
there.
Here, though?
But I don't know that. And that's the honest truth, Alex.
Right. You're right.
I think Tua's better than any of the quarterbacks that's played for Denver over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And I think Broncos fans would agree with me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. What I will tell you is if you've been a head coach in the NFL, you know how to fail in this league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And learning from your mistakes is something that I think helps move you along in this league. One of the arguably the greatest head coach of all time, and I think Don Shula is. Okay, let's just get that straight. But even Shula's in this conversation.
Sorry,
okay, Belichick coached 5 years in Cleveland, and he failed miserably there.
Yep, he did.
Right? And so then he went to New England, had everything that he needed, and boom, all of a sudden, it was life-changing. He became the greatest head coach of all time. Don Shula's the same way. Don Shula failed in Baltimore with the Colts, then went to Miami, became the greatest head coach of all time with the Dolphins, right? So I think that what you need is a coach that has failed and knows where he failed at and what went wrong. Right. Dan Quinn is somebody else that I wouldn't mind.
I like Dan Quinn, and I think that he gets a little bit harshly judged on how things went in Atlanta after their Super Bowl failure.
Look at Shula. Look at Shula loses the Super Bowl with the Colts, and the rest of the league said this guy can't coach. He'll never get over the hump. And insert George Wilson, who had 4 years of losing, being the first head coach of this team, and that of the Miami Dolphins franchise. And they realized we need somebody to get us over the hump. Don Shula, they interview him. He's like, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to institute. And all of a sudden he coaches for the next 30 years at the, in the same place. There's something to be said of that, Alex.
Yeah. And what I like most about Dan Quinn is I think that out of the candidates that they've talked to with head coaching experience, I think he's got the best track record building a staff. If you look at the people that worked under him in Atlanta, it was a who's who of people who are now head coaches or high-level coordinators. So that you don't have to worry about that guy building a staff. And I think there's a reason, Steve, why you, me, and so many Dolphin fans are talking about the importance of building a staff. It's because Brian Flores couldn't do that.
And that's why he's not here today.
The crazy thing about it was that didn't even seem to be why he got fired, which is kind of crazy to me. Because
I think it was.
Well, and maybe you're right, because maybe the things that are leaking are agenda driven, right? The things that are leaking is, he didn't know how to talk to players and, he was sabotaging Tua. That narrative's out there. I think the real narrative might have been, how could this guy work for Bill Belichick as long as he did, and yet he can't find competent coordinators?
But Alex, no coaching disciple of Belichick has been successful. Not one.
No, you're right.
Not one. And everybody wants to bring up Vrabel. Vrabel never coached with him. He was a player.
Yeah, played for him. Yeah.
So, look, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. There's just something there. There's just something there in the water that you can't go out on your own and do it. But if you have Belichick around you, Belichick seems to get the best out of people for what he needs. Josh McDaniels being one of them, right? Josh McDaniels is an absolute failure of a head coach. but him being the offensive coordinator in New England, he's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
But he just can't succeed outside of there, right?
Right.
Patricia's the same way. So look, I'll say this: I think that Flores is going to get another head coaching opportunity. I personally think he's going to be the Giants head coach. It'll be the Giants or the Bears is where I think he ends up. But I think he gets another head coaching opportunity. And when that fails, and by the way, I think it will, for no other reason than I just don't know if he's, those two franchises are, they haven't made enough good decisions in their time for me to think that why are they going to do it with Flores? I think Flores will go back and be the defensive coordinator under Belichick or whoever's the head coach in New England when it's all said and done.
That's usually how it goes for New England. You notice Belichick is always, he brings back guys with open arms.
Keep the receipt.
Yeah.
Keep the receipt. You can keep the receipt on this. But look, and everybody in the comments section here wants to bring up last night's game. Tua, there's no way he could have done that last night. I 100% agree with you.
Me too.
The Tua today, there is no absolute possible way that he could have done that last night. Yeah. But I need other things to happen first. And I, again, want to state for the record, if you have a chance to obviously upgrade at the quarterback position, you do it. You do it in a minute. That's my view on it, Alex.
Yeah. Well, and just to circle back to coaching, I think you mentioned you favor experience, someone who's been a head coach before, because they know how to fail, right? Like they know what it means to fail at that level and come back from it. For the most part, I agree. When I look through the candidates that the Dolphins have interviewed, and I'm still kind of wondering why there's only 7 of them. Are there secret candidates? Like, why are we not talking to Harbaugh if
the report came out this week, and the report came out this weekend that Harbaugh reached out to Stephen Ross,
which is an insult to my intelligence, because how does Stephen Ross not reach out to him? So Stephen Ross is like,
we have a part-time owner.
Yeah, well, why is he prioritizing his alma mater? I know he gives a lot of money to them. I get it. He's probably their biggest booster, but still, he literally owns an NFL team who needs a head coach, and Jim Harbaugh quite possibly could be the best available head coach for him to hire. Why is he ignoring that? Because he's prioritizing his alma mater over a team he literally owns. It's insulting. So listen, I hope the report is true, and Harbaugh can talk some sense into Stephen Ross, because if I'm Jim Harbaugh and I'm saying, you know what, I want to go back to the NFL, I want to give it another crack, and
I want to do it with you. I want to do it with you in Miami.
And I want to do it with a guy like, I imagine, like they're close, Harbaugh and Ross.
So this is my theory. Harbaugh wants the keys to the car.
Yeah,
Greer has those keys currently
because Greer is a doormat, and he doesn't want
Greer
to be bullied.
And Greer is in Ross's ear, and there's nobody else more that's in. Yeah. Let me state for the record, I don't hate Greer. There's a lot of good things he's done. But there are some questionable things where you scratch your head and you're going, this don't add up. This don't add up at all. And Harbaugh being one of those things that don't add up, because why would Harbaugh not come here? He's really close friends with Stephen Ross. They have a great relationship together. If he goes to the NFL and it's not the Miami Dolphins failed. Point blank. They did.
There's no doubt in my mind. Like, because I know Ross, Stephen Ross is worried about the optics of, because he's the sugar daddy for the Michigan football program. So he's worried about the optics of, I don't want to make Michigan feel like I stole their head coach. That would be bad optics. But wouldn't it be worse optics to say, hey, I own an NFL team. Jim Harbaugh is an incredible coach. How did I let him go to another NFL team when he could have come to mine? I think the optics of that would be worse. And that, of course, depends on who the Dolphins hire. Like, if the Dolphins were to hire Vance Joseph and they let Jim Harbaugh go to Las Vegas, doesn't that make Stephen Ross look pretty terrible?
I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, I don't know who the Dolphins are going to get. I know that people say that there's the rumor in the Dolphins Twitterverse that the Dolphins have a secret list of people that I don't know if that's true. I don't
I
think
don't know
that
if
it
it's
is.
true either.
I also don't believe that there is some conspiracy theory that the Dolphins are not interviewing certain people. Like, look, I believe this is what I believe. Ross's optics are not good, but I think Ross wants what's best for the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
But I will also state for the record as well, and if you make this decision, the wrong decision, this will be the last decision for Stephen Ross. This will be the last decision for Chris Grier, because Ross is going to end up selling the team. Greer's going to be gone, and we're going to be stuck in this thing again 2 or 3 years from now, Alex. And I've said that from the moment we fired Flores, that we're going to be in this position 2 or 3 years from now, all over again, except even worse, and we're going to do a complete gut and rebuild again.
Yeah, it's sad but true. So, yeah, listen, I would love to have Jim Harbaugh here. I hope something materializes with that. I thought Doug Peterson would make a great candidate, but there's no
By the way,
evidence.
breaking news: Tom Pelissero just said the Giants are planning to interview Brian Daboll a second time for their head coaching position today.
Okay, that's interesting. Because you usually when you get the second interview, that could be the one where he gets the offer, right? Like when you get the second interview, they're not bringing you back if they didn't like what you had to say.
And
Like,
they're also interviewing Dan Quinn today, so they're known as the finalists. Dan Quinn and Daboll are finalists for the Giants head coaching, and there could be more coming out.
Okay, well that's really interesting to me because for a lot of the reasons we talked about, I really felt like, and I know you said the same thing. Brian Daboll is probably the favorite of Dolphins management, unless there really is a secret list. Maybe it's Harbaugh, and we just don't. They've kept it swept under the rug to this point. But I would have thought Brian Daboll would be the favorite by Dolphins management because he doesn't seem like he has the type of personality that would butt heads too much with Grier. I think that they could probably work pretty well together. And Chris Grier, he's got a little Jonathan Martin in his DNA. He doesn't like to be bullied. Okay. So he's probably, let me bring in a guy who's not going to rattle the cage too much. And the biggest thing for Daboll is, and I give him credit because he seems to have an excellent offensive mind, but the biggest thing with Daboll is he loves Tua and he's worked with Tua. Was Tua's OC at Alabama, was instrumental in Tua's recruitment out of high school. He made those comments about Tua's keyhole accuracy. So he really likes Tua. And the Dolphins said it, Steve, 2 weeks ago when this job came open, working someone to work with Tua is one of the priority things that they're looking for in this job. So Brian Daboll to me would check off a lot of those boxes. But I'll tell you, out of the guys without head coaching experience, if you're going to take a shot on a coordinator, the guy who intrigues me most, and I know I'm not the only one because he's gotten very popular, is Mike McDaniel. That's the guy who intrigues me most. I don't favor him over the guys with head coaching experience, but I think if you're going to roll the dice on someone without head coaching experience, roll the dice on an out-of-the-box hire because this guy, he actually, because let me lay it down to you this way, okay? Most of the offensive or defensive coordinators you're going after, obviously they've been successful at their jobs or they're not getting head coaching interviews, but most of them just build on things predecessors have done. Mike McDaniel is the only guy out there who's actually creating new play designs and schematics. Like he is actually someone who is leading a renaissance in evolution and adaptation of offensive football. He's actually creating things with his play design. So that guy is actually a visionary. Now, there's no guarantee that just because he's a successful, and you can't even say play caller because he doesn't call the plays there, but he's a successful play designer. There's no guarantee that guy becomes a successful head coach. I've heard countless stories, though, of 49ers players and guys that he coached at previous spots loving him and saying, hey, this there was the story about George Kittle where he actually wanted it to be in his new contract with San Francisco that my contract is only valid while Mike McDaniel is here because I need this guy to be on the staff. So players do love this guy. He's actually an offensive innovator, somebody who can create new things and not just adapt to things. So that would be the one guy that I would take a shot at. Like if you're going to take a shot at someone who's never been a head coach before, I would take a shot on McDaniel. Yeah, the new McVay. That you said it very well, Trey. I would take a shot on the new McVay. Like he's basically, I'll throw out a reference to the Renaissance Michelangelo was instrumental in the city of Florence to bring in the Renaissance. Mike McDaniel is like the Michelangelo of football in this era. Like, this guy is bringing about a renaissance in offensive football. I would take a shot on that guy before any of the other coordinators we have on the list.
I disagree with you so wholeheartedly that because I don't want a first-time head coach.
Yeah.
I love Eric Bieniemy. Don't want him. He deserves to be a head coach in the NFL, by the way. 100%.
He does. Should have been last year.
Should have been 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We can go down the list.
50 years ago.
But I don't want a first-time head coach. And let me tell you what I promise you on everything, Alex. And I pray that I'm wrong. But I promise you on everything. If we decide to hire a first-time head coach, we will be having the same discussion within 2 to 3 years. Guaranteed. Take it to the bank. Keep the receipt. Don't care what you got to say about it.
Yeah. And that includes, by the way, names we haven't mentioned, like Kellen Moore. I don't think he's ready. Thomas Brown.
There's one person it doesn't include. And I've said this, and I said it on your show. Pep Hamilton.
Oh.
Pep Hamilton is the exception to the rule. Pep Hamilton is the exception to the rule. But that's it. There's nobody else that I think that would be the exception to the rule. Now, what I will also say to this is there's a rumor in New Orleans right now that Sean Payton has gone ghost to the New Orleans Saints. So I have said 2 weeks ago, hey, guys, why don't we call up Pittsburgh? Why don't we call up New Orleans?
Yeah.
Why don't we ask what it would take to get Mike Tomlin or Sean Payton? It's a legitimate, viable option that nobody's discussing. I think we should discuss it. I'll do you one better. The 2013 Washington football team, who knows what they're going to be called here in 22 days.
Yeah, they're coming up with a new name, right?
New name.
They should keep it football team. Just keep it football team. What? I'm okay with that if they just stay Washington football team. But oh well. Go ahead.
I will say this. There was a coaching staff in that 2013 year that had Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. Who else did it have? It had one other person who's a head coach in the NFL right now. Why am I not thinking the guy's name off the top of my head? Sure. But anyways, why are we not considering Jay Gruden as a head coach? Because he's the one who put that coaching staff together.
That's true.
Right? He's the one who put that coaching staff together. Why isn't he a viable option? He's not his brother. I'm not saying, look, all I'll say is he should be considered a legitimate option.
Yeah.
Caldwell included. Matt LaFleur, that's the other one. It's LaFleur. It was LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, and Sean McVay on that coaching staff in 2013 that Jay Gruden had. But Jay Gruden's not a viable coaching option? Come on, bro.
He should be.
He should be.
By the way, why do you think they don't seem to be talking with Jim Caldwell? Is it because he's older? Because I said it on a couple of different platforms a couple of weeks ago that the teams may be hesitant to bring in, a new head coach who's think he's going to be 67 years old by the time the season starts. And Steve, I almost got canceled. Like, I was called an ageist. I have been called a hater of the elderly. Like, listen, I'm just spitting facts that a lot of times when you have openings, teams are going to prioritize candidates in their 40s and 50s, sometimes even 30s, but they're going to prioritize candidates in their 40s and 50s before they look at someone in their late 60s. I would like Jim Caldwell. I think Jim Caldwell, if he was actually a candidate, would be probably top 3 or top 4 on my list. I wouldn't mind that because he's got that experience. He's got 2 previous stops as a head coach in the NFL, and he worked some minor miracles in Detroit to get that team to the playoffs.
Look, I'll say this. I think that Jim Caldwell should be, with the exception of maybe Harbaugh and maybe Doug Peterson, should be the number 1 coaching candidate for this team. But again, I'm not running this team. That would just be common sense to me. And the Dolphins haven't done anything remotely that has common sense in the same sentence in years. I I don't know. What I'll say is I think that Caldwell deserves to be a head coach. I think he would be a very good one. I think there's something to be said that his name has not come up in a lot of the coaching searches, which is very weird. But he deserves it. He deserves it. And I would love to see him on the sidelines for the Miami Dolphins as the head coach. The question is, does he want to coach? I think that's the real question.
Supposedly he does. Like, so supposedly he's been telling people that he's, whatever the health issues were when he left Flo's staff a couple of years ago, he says not an issue. I wanna coach again. But I want to go back to possibilities you mentioned potentially in trades, right? Trading for an established head coach. If they actually were to have an opening to acquire Sean Payton, because obviously Payton would have to be willing. You do it, yeah, absolutely.
In a
Because
minute.
obviously Payton would have to want to come here, and then you talk compensation. Like he's got to want to come here, then you talk compensation. But if you had that opening, you should absolutely do it because, bro, he checks off every box possible. And I'm not just talking about in general, because obviously he's one of the more successful coaches of this era, but he checks off boxes specific to the Miami Dolphins as well. Of course, he's got Super Bowl winning experience. He's had New Orleans, relevant for virtually his entire tenure there, if not, getting to and winning Super Bowls and all that. But the Dolphins need an overhaul with their offensive personnel, and he can help you identify players, their offensive philosophy, that's his strength, and nurturing quarterbacks. So you figure Sean Payton can do some excellent things with Tua Tagovailoa. And also, I'm not comparing Tua to Drew Brees. That would be lunacy, but what is Drew Brees? Drew Brees was a quarterback with probably below average arm strength in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa is a quarterback with below average arm strength and below average size. Drew Brees was very small for that position. So Sean Payton already knows how to work with that sort of a prototype quarterback. Now, obviously, we're yet to see if Tua has the X factors that Drew Brees had to become one of the best in his generation to play the game and a future Hall of Famer. But Sean Payton does know how to mold an offense around a quarterback who does not have elite arm strength. So he checks off a lot of boxes.
I just don't know if the Dolphins, look, there's nothing that has shown me that says they're going to make the right decision with this thing. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense that should be a decision or the route the Miami Dolphins should go. But again, until I see some competence at ownership and GM level when it comes to being a contender in this league, which we haven't been, I don't know what the right move is. And I'm just being 100% honest with you, Alex. I just don't know where we go from here.
Do you think when Ross fired Flo, do you think he should have cleaned house and should also be looking for a new GM? Because I know you said some things where you like some of the things Greer has been doing, but Greer has been
if Harbaugh were to say, "Hey, look, I want to come here, but I want full reins," you get rid of Greer.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't even hesitate.
I wouldn't either.
If Caldwell were to come in and say the same thing, I probably still wouldn't hesitate. Right? But you bring in somebody like a Dayball or a McDaniel or, some first timer, then you leave Greer the way it is. My hope is, and again, I don't think that it is, but my hope is I think that Greer is a safety net depending on who the head coach is. But my hope is that maybe behind closed doors, let's say Harbaugh is legit. Let's say that's a legitimate possibility.
Yeah.
And he goes to Ross and he says, "Hey, I'll come, but I want full keys to the car." Ross's very next move should be, "Hey, we're going to part ways with Greer."
Yeah.
That should be the case.
It makes too much sense because, and I know that sometimes when I bring up Harbaugh wanting to have him here, people will react like, "Oh, are you crazy? That's the guy you want?" It's like, hold on. Let's not forget, this guy in the NFL is a former coach of the year, got to a Super Bowl, lost to his own brother, which was like a Greek tragedy, I guess, the way that
I know, right?
out.
Yep.
He lost to his own brother in
a Harbaugh Bowl.
This is a darn good football coach, right? And he's proven it time and time again in the college ranks and in the NFL. This isn't one of these college coaches that hasn't done it in the NFL. Like, no, I mean, Jim Harbaugh is a heck of a good coach. and he also he seems to be a pretty good executive as well. And yeah, if it came to Stephen Ross having to choose, this town ain't big enough for the two of these guys, right? Do I choose Chris Greer or Jim Harbaugh? I can understand choosing Chris Greer over Flo if the town was only big enough for one of them, because what has Flo really done at the end of the day? But yeah, if you had to choose Jim Harbaugh or Chris Greer, I'm going to choose the guy who's actually had some success, because what has Chris Greer actually proven in this league? He can hit on a few guys and miss on some guys.
Okay, look, this past draft he hit. This past draft he hit.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind about
one before that, though.
Yeah, raspberries. I agree. All right, enough about this talk. I want to talk about what is really important and what I look forward to talking about with you the whole time.
What is that?
I want to talk about Ozark.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, first, I've got to make a confession to you.
I didn't watch.
I haven't watched I haven't started season 4
See,
yet,
bro. I can't. Let me just sip my water.
Well, so have you gotten through the first half?
Oh, I all 7 episodes. Gone, done.
So,
and I'm all caught up. And I'm all caught up with Peacemaker on HBO Max.
I don't watch that. Is that good?
Oh my God!
You know what I have been watching is Cobra Kai season 4.
Oh yes, I've watched all that. I'm all caught up there too.
Okay, and Ozark, I'm caught up until this season, right? So I've watched the first 3 seasons. I love it. I think to me, it's the closest thing I've seen to Breaking Bad since Breaking Bad, which I'm a gigantic fan of. So, okay, and this is the final season they're doing now of Ozark. They're releasing it in 2 parts.
2 parts, correct.
So, okay, so you've watched the entirety of part 1 of season 4.
Yep. I'll try not to give spoilers, but what I'll say is I think it's like Ozark is hands down the best show on television.
Ooh.
There's no doubt in my mind. Like the writing is great, the acting is great, the storyline is so compelling. You try to turn it off after 1 episode. Good luck. Can't do it. You have to set pretty much the whole day aside because you're gonna watch it. But yeah, I mean, and look, my favorite show of all time personally, there's a couple of them. Like I love Entourage, I love The Wire.
Great shows.
But Ozark is right up there with it now because it's so good. Jason Bateman is amazing.
He is amazing.
Amazing, And so I would say that. And then Cobra Kai is awesome. Cobra Kai is awesome too because I love How I Met Your Mother. And by the way, How I Met Your Father came out. I have not watched that. Is that any good? I have not watched that first episode yet. I have a buddy of mine. I actually, you can't see it. See that little white thing over here in the screen? Where is it at? Right there?
Yeah.
That is the autographed script of the How I Met Your Mother first script.
Oh, that's crazy.
Of the entire cast.
That's
awesome.
I
love How I Met Your Mother. But I promised that we'd watch that together, me and my buddy. But the How I Met Your Father episode. But neither here or there. What I will say is when you're looking at a good show, there's a few things that you need, right? You need good actors. You need good writing. Got to have great writers. Because what's a show without a good storyline and good script writing, right?
Right.
And then the third thing you need is a storyline that will keep people coming back for more. And Ozark hits all of those.
Yeah.
Ozark hits all of those,
It actually makes me want to go to the Ozark.
It does.
I tried to suggest that once as like a vacation recommendation to my wife who does not watch the show, and she's like, "Are you on crack? Like what? Why would I want? What is it in like?"
She wants to be on a beach. Don't lie.
It's in like Missouri or something. She's like, "Yeah, that's where you want to go. Yeah.
You want to go to Missouri? You crazy
want to go to Missouri on vacation?
That's funny. That's too funny.
I want to go to the filming locations. Although, actually, I think that a lot of the show they actually film it somewhere else. Like they don't actually film it at the Lake Ozark. So but it is
It is my favorite show out on TV right now, and I'm so mad you didn't watch it because I wanted to talk to you about the episode and give some spoilers away.
I
You're
know.
killing
Well,
me.
what's been going on with me the last several days.
I know
It's not
you've
very
had.
bad, but I've had this Omicron, and it's
Just
like
blame it on COVID.
I
Go
will.
ahead.
Forever. I will. In like a year, I'll be like, is that Omicron I had in 2022? But no, it's like I don't feel that bad, but I've been tired like 18 hours out of the day. So it's like, and
Bro.
because I told you last night when I was watching Buffalo, Kansas City,
We're
and I was
texting each
texting
other
you.
during the game, and he's like, "Hey, man, after I'm gonna watch the show."
And then they went to overtime. And then the next thing I knew, I'm like prying my eyes open. I'm like, I can't watch Ozark tonight. I can't watch it tonight.
That's too funny, man. That's too
No, but
funny.
what would you say, like shows that are in progress now, like shows that aren't finished yet? What are some of the other best that you would compare Ozark to? Because as far
Ozark,
as like,
Ozark's its own thing. You can't compare Ozark to like anything. Now, there's good shows out there, right?
I
Like,
love Better Call Saul, but it's like it's a continuation of the Breaking Bad universe. So it's like I don't love Better Call Saul as much as I did Breaking Bad, and like Breaking Bad had to exist for Better Call Saul to exist. So I'll give Ozark the edge over
so
Better Call
there's
Saul.
there's a limited series that is on Hulu. The entire thing's on there called Dope Sick with Michael Keaton.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I
And
gotta
that
watch
is
that.
about the opioid epidemic. And that is amazing. That's like 6 or maybe 8 episodes. They're a little over an hour long each. Great show. What else, man? I think that's good. I'm trying to think of like current shows,
Are
right?
you big on like? Is there's a lot of Marvel shows out there
I watch
now,
everything Marvel.
and Star Wars ones as well, like
Oh,
the
Boba Fett.
Mandalorian.
Boba Fett is the book of Boba Fett is
That's another one I haven't started yet.
awesome. And the Mandalorian is great.
I love the Mandal. I mean, it's not in the Ozark conversation for me, but it's good.
It's
Like I
its
do
own
like
thing, right?
Yeah,
You
its
can't,
own
it's
thing.
its own thing. But I would say is it's so good. It's so good. And I was never a true Star Wars person until like honestly Disney Plus came out, and I watched
Really?
all the Star Wars from start
Wow.
to finish, including the shows. And I'm like, this is a lot better than I remember.
Even the
But
cartoons are good. Have you watched like
I'm not
Clone
into the
Wars?
cartoon stuff, but everybody says they're great.
Clone Wars is
Everybody says
really
they're
good.
great.
Like I haven't. I was watching. It's funny because I started watch. My excuse like 2 years ago to start watching Clone Wars. My excuse was, oh, this will be a good way to get my kid into Star Wars. Except my kid was like 2 years old at the time, so he wasn't really following it. But then I was watching it, so like that. What I told my wife was, hey, this would be a good way to get
This is
Luca
the
into
way.
Star Wars. This will be
Yeah.
like the gateway. He didn't really love it. I think if I circle back to it now, he'd probably like. He's going to be 4 years old in a couple weeks.
It's a
He'd
show you
probably
could
like
watch
it
again.
now.
You could watch
Yeah,
again, and
I
he would
could,
be
but
into
then
it.
like so I told my wife, hey, I'm going to watch Clone Wars with Luca. But then she would like come into the room and see me watching it like when he was asleep. She's like, wait, you're watching? I'm like, yeah, I like it. It's not
No
really for him
judging
to
here,
sleep.
honey. No judging. Thou shalt not judge. That's in the Bible, okay? You can't
Yeah.
judge me watching this show. Yeah, man. Like, look, I think that's great. And then I love the Marvel stuff out right now. Like, I just watched Eternals, the movie, and a lot of people didn't like it. I thought
That was
Eternals
it was one of the
great.
worst Marvel.
No,
Like,
it was not, bro.
Eternals, Captain Marvel, those are probably the two worst. Marvel
What?
movies. Yeah.
What? How
Eternals.
dare you talk about Brie Larson like that?
Listen, I like Brie Larson, but Captain Marvel was a stink bomb. I'm sorry.
No, it was no way. No way. But I like look, we could talk about the Spider-Man movie now. It's been out. Everybody should have watched it by now.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert if you haven't. Hit the mute button, okay? But all 3 Spider-Mans coming out in it. Crazy.
It was excellent.
Right? And then we get to see Daredevil, Charlie Cox back as the lawyer. So my hope is that they're going to reintroduce Charlie Cox and Daredevil back.
Yeah, I hope so.
And the cool thing about, this multiverse timeline that Marvel has, which is really, really cool, is you never know who they could bring back, because the rumor was that for Doctor Strange, they reached out to Ben Affleck in his Daredevil movie, and that they wanted to bring him back. He didn't do it. But what I'm saying is like, I think everything's on the table.
Yeah. Every
scenario is on the table at this point. And so when when the last when Avengers Endgame came out, I remember walking out of the theater talking to my wife like, there is no possible way that Marvel can up what they just did over the last 10 years.
I agree. Like I remember saying, what
bro,
are they gonna do
I
next?
was
Like,
wrong.
Yeah.
I was straight wrong because they
Yeah.
have. And the new Spider-Man movie tops all of those Avengers movies.
The thing,
Times
and
10.
this may be a little bit of a hot take, but the thing that this new Spider-Man movie, which I loved, what it made me realize was, it made me realize just how bad the first two Tom Holland solo movies were. And I like Tom Holland.
What?
Like, bear with me here for a second. I am Tom Holland to me as an actor is great, but his first two solo movies, like outside of the first one, I like Michael Keaton, so I liked it to an extent. But the first solo movie was basically like, oh, let me call Mr. Stark. I need some help. I don't know what to do. That was the whole movie, okay? The second movie was ridiculous. They did the whole thing with Jake Gyllenhaal, who is one of my favorite actors, Jake Gyllenhaal. The whole thing, it was like the swerve that they did in Iron Man 3, how like the Mandarin wasn't really the man. That's basically what they did with Jake Gyllenhaal's character. It was really stupid. And then the whole second movie, Peter Parker, as far as he knew, the apocalypse was happening, and he was not concerned whatsoever about the fact that he and all his friends would die. He was just concerned about giving a Black Dahlia bracelet to MJ. It was ridiculous. But then the third movie, you know how they finally made this version of Spider-Man interesting? By bringing in old Spider-Man and by bringing in...
That's hilarious, Crystal.
That's the comment of the day.
That's hilarious. About
you
to
know,
put a ring on that, bro.
I am married, but in case it doesn't work out, because my wife actually, she hates my superhero movie hot takes. Like we've had legit fights over this because she's a Marvel fangirl, right? But I'm telling you, they were able to finally make the Tom Holland Spider-Man interesting. And again, it's nothing against Tom Holland. It's just against the writing. Are you an
Andrew Garfield guy or a Tobey Maguire guy?
Well, here's the thing. I think Andrew Garfield, to me, he is the best Spider-Man.
Boo this man.
Hold on. And you saw it because he was the MVP of this movie. Tom Holland, whiny ass Tom Holland. Tobey Maguire.
I can't.
Tobey Maguire is washed. And keep in mind his movies were like 20 years ago. Tobey Maguire belonged in an old folks' home, not swinging through web shooters. Okay, let's put the force on. Steven's going to officiate. No, but Andrew Garfield, he was the MVP of Spider-Man: Far From Home or No Way Home. He was the MVP of that movie. Now his movies, I think his first movie was good. His second movie was an abomination. It was just terrible. That's why they discontinued his version of Spider-Man, because the second movie was so bad. But what I'm saying is, like, finally Tom Holland's Spider-Man was made interesting because they brought back old Spider-Man and they brought back the villains. Bro, Willem Dafoe, the Green Goblin,
hands down one of the greatest villains of all time.
He was the real MVP of that movie, even over Andrew Garfield. Willem Dafoe was the MVP of that movie, and Jamie Foxx was also really good in the movie as well.
I like how they redid Electro's character, because I wasn't a big fan of it in that first one, first version, but I like how they redefined it and gave him more substance and background in this movie, which is crazy, right? You gave a supporting character more substance and background for somebody who was on the screen, 20 minutes out of the movie, 25 minutes maybe total. But it was so good, and I think it was great, man. But just to kind of change subjects a little bit as far as staying on superhero roles, Peacemaker is on HBO Max.
Is that good?
It's got John Cena in it.
Yeah, I've seen the trailers, and
it is amazing. And it's corny, but it's good corny, right? Yeah. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. And I love it, man. It is not something you watch with your kids. It is very raunchy. There's sex scenes in it. There's cussing. There's everything in it. And it's up there as one of DC's best shows. Now, I love Titans, though, too. Titans is great. Titans is also on HBO Max. And Titans has all the, it has Nightwing and
is that the
Robin
thing?
No, it's not. It's
not?
Yeah, they have, I want to say 3, maybe 4 seasons.
Oh, I gotta watch that. I was thinking, I think there's a thing called like Teen Titans. It's like a
That
cartoon.
that's a cartoon. So Titans is a show
Okay.
that has Batman in his like 70s.
I thought it was the Ryan Tannehill show when you talk about that.
No, it has so they have a Batman, they have a Bruce Wayne who's in his 70s in the show.
Oh wow.
They have Robin, both versions of Robin. There's just a lot of people in there, and it's great. And the other one is what's the one that Brandon Fraser's in? The Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol's good too.
I did watch Watchmen a couple of years ago.
Watchmen was great. Regina King, by the way, R.I.P. Regina King just went through a bad. Her son, 27 years old, committed suicide this past week.
Nice. Oh, that's awful.
And I love Regina King.
Yeah.
But she did absolutely amazing in that show, Watchmen.
She was great.
It was so good. It was so good. But yeah, and that again, I think that's the problem with some of these superhero shows is they'll do it for a season or two and then they'll get rid of it and they don't take it to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And that's always been my problem with some of these superhero shows because Daredevil and Luke Cage were so good.
They were good, and then they pulled and Punisher as well, and then
Punisher was great, man.
Yeah,
my guy.
I think
what's his name? What's his name?
Why they pulled the plug was that Marvel needed to get off Netflix because Disney Plus was going to launch.
But now seeing Charlie Cox in the new Spider-Man movie, I said Charlie Cox. I don't know if that's right, but seeing Daredevil
sounds right. I think that's right. The actor who plays Daredevil, right? I think that's
that's I don't know, but neither here or there. Seeing him in the new Spider-Man movie opens up everything, opens the door for everything, man. So I just wanted to talk about that because it was
it's great. No, it's so true that was and when I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, I was one of the last people to see it. I finally saw it in the theater like 2 weeks ago. Like it had been out for like almost a month by the time I saw it. And by the time I went in to see it, I'm the type of person where when I see everybody hyping something up, it usually ruins it for me. Like when I see everybody like, oh, this is the best thing you've ever seen, then I'm like, oh, really? Is it? And then I'll go in like with expectations way too high. This one met my expectations. Like I went in super hyped about it because everyone was saying how good it was. So I was worried I would be disappointed, but I was super, super hyped about it. So yeah, and like you said, that to me, like, where does the Marvel universe go after Endgame, where they tied up so many?
I didn't know what they were gonna do, but they've killed it. It's been awesome, and now you've opened up. Now supposedly Deadpool is gonna be in the MCU.
Well, and they got to figure out a way. They got to figure out a way to bring the X-Men in because obviously, like,
they opened that door with
WandaVision.
Yeah, they had Quicksilver.
Yeah,
they had X-Men's version of Quicksilver in there. Now I know that it wasn't his version in the show, but it was.
Yeah, it was kind of.
It opened it up. It opened it up.
They opened it up. So
and at minimum, it showed us that we can have the world of X-Men and the MCU kind of live together in cohesiveness because.
And can you imagine if they can bring Deadpool in?
Deadpool's already confirmed. See, the third movie is. The third movie is part of the MCU. That's already confirmed.
Oh wow.
Yep. So what I want to see is there was a comic, the red team, and it was Spider-Man, Deadpool, and who's the third guy?
This is the geekiness is way over my head.
I know.
You crossed into a different plane of geeky here.
I'm just saying, Marvel's awesome. And and by the way, I'm a Superman guy. I love DC. I'm a
Superman. Batman guy. Yeah.
Like this was like my that's my first crappy $40 tattoo when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
That I've never gotten covered up yet. But I love Superman. So and I want to see Henry Cavill come back, please.
Yeah, I like him.
Hey, by the way, movie news. Rumor happened over the weekend. That was already a rumor for a few years and then kind of died away, but is back. Idris Elba could be the next 007.
I like that a lot.
I would love to see Idris Elba as the next 007.
There's been a lot of things I've wanted to see him the next of. I don't know if and this is now I'm going to bring the geekiness back up. I don't know if you've ever watched this. Actually, I haven't watched it in a few years, but I used to be really into Doctor Who. You ever watch that show?
Is that the one with Benedict Cumberbatch?
No, that was Sherlock.
Okay.
Doctor, it started in the 60s. It's this like staple British
Show.
sci-fi
I know
show.
it's a British show.
Yeah,
I know it's a British show.
And then it was like for like 15 years it disappeared. They brought it back like 20 years ago. And so it's kind of like it's kind of like 007, not in the storylines, but it's like 007 in the sense that they'll change the doctors, where it's like, how 007 has been a bunch of different actors over the years. In Doctor Who, like they'll change the actors because after a few years the actor wants to go do something else, and then they'll explain how his face changed because it's all written into the sci-fi thing. But like Idris Elba has before in the past been rumored to have been the new Doctor Who, and it never happened. But 007
he's been rumored for this as 007, but
yeah.
The studio came out with some sort of somebody from the studio was being interviewed saying we didn't want to discuss it till after the new movie was out,
which makes sense.
But
that'll take away from the movie.
Correct. But I would say is, I would love to see Idris Elba, or Idris Elba would be my number one. Tom Hardy would be my number two.
I love him.
And number three would probably be Henry Cavill.
The thing is, and I'll say Tom Hardy's one of my favorite actors, but I see him more as a Bond villain than I see as Bond. You know what I'm saying?
First of all, he's already played the best villain of all time, Bane.
Bane was great.
He killed Bane.
Have you ever seen the show? Have you seen the show Peaky Blinders?
Peaky Blinders? Are you kidding me?
He's got a great
show, bro. I can't believe I didn't think of Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, it's a great show.
The mom in that show just died too this year, like in real life.
Who?
Like the mom in Peaky Blinders.
Oh no,
she died.
Aunt Polly?
Aunt Polly.
Oh, that sucks. I
know that. Because they didn't end that show. Like they haven't ended that show the way it.
Yeah, they got one more season.
Yes, and they need to end it. Like they need a good ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yes, I love Peaky Blinders. Great show. And he plays a really good villain in that.
Yeah.
Plays a Jewish villain. I cannot think of his name in it, but he plays really good.
Either. So I think it's like, is it Saul? Something?
I don't know. But he's also on another good show on FX that only had one season.
Oh.
Called Taboo.
I never heard of it.
It had like a ridiculous multi-million-dollar budget. There's a reason it never got a season 2 because the budget for the first season was so outrageous and the numbers didn't match up what it did. But it's such a great show. Such a great show. Bro, man, you got I love talking movies and stuff. We'll have to do more of that on the show. I do want to talk to you about a couple of other things though. We'll change subject real quick. If you haven't hit that like button so far, hit the like button.
Smash it.
Subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to donate to the channel and help the channel grow, we won't be mad at you. Okay? FSU and Miami University of Miami, the U, played basketball this weekend, faced the second time at the U. Was so crazy because it seemed like a lot of my man from Barstool Sports Day Portnoy was there.
Mm-hmm.
He
loves Miami now. All of a sudden, he's
man,
coming out of the woodwork.
He does love Miami. It's insane, and he's got a place in Miami too. I'd love to have Dave Portnoy on the show, but they were down 20 points at the half, 49-29 at half, and they end up losing by 1 point, 61-60.
They almost pulled it off.
They should have won the first game at FSU.
They got screwed in the first game at FSU. FSU was given a really cheap foul call to get the game-winning free throws. Miami should have won that one. And then the second one, they get it this close to a comeback. I mean, the first half of that game, Steve, Miami could not buy a basket. I mean, credit to Florida State's defense, which was pretty smothering, but Miami was missing a ton of open looks as well. Like they could not, you contrast that with the way Miami played against UNC, where they couldn't miss. When they beat Duke on the road and they couldn't miss. For some reason, they could not hit a shot against Florida State. So it was too little, too late. I mean, Miami came alive, but at that point, I guess it was just too big of a hill to climb out.
I'll say this, man. If Miami gets in the dance, look out. I think
Yeah,
I think they're good, and I think they're good enough to go on the run, to go on a run. And I think losing both those games to FSU, who, by the way, I think FSU should be ranked.
they should, and so should Miami. They should
Yeah.
both be ranked, and neither
Yeah.
of them are ranked.
It's sad. It's sad that they're. I mean, ACC just doesn't get the respect it deserves, like it used to. ACC
Well,
used to be you
the thing is, like,
consistently had
yeah,
6 or 7 teams in the top 25 year after year after
right.
year.
The non-traditional powers, because I think like Duke and UNC are always going to get overrated, but like teams like Miami and Florida State just don't get that respect.
No, you're right, and you know, and it's funny because they've changed conferences so much too. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, Miami's been in what, the Big East or at
Mhm.
one point, right?
Yeah.
And
They were independent before that. Yeah.
yeah, man, like, and it's so funny because different athletics are in different conferences now too. Like the football team could be in the ACC, but it's just, come on, guys, really, really. So I don't know. College basketball has a lot to. There's so much that could change with it, and it could be so much better. But I will say this: I am excited to see what Miami does going into March Madness, and I hope that they get in because they deserve to get in.
Yeah, I think they're going to get in. They may need like depending on how the rest of the schedule plays out. They may need like a kind of strong showing in the ACC tournament, but I think they'll get it. I think they got a really good team.
Another thing, Miami Heat last night playing the Lakers.
They beat them up, man, and then
113 to 107.
and LeBron was like flexing down 20. You know, it's like, okay,
Yep. 33 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists for LeBron James. But for the Heat, you know, Duncan Robinson, 25 points. Jimmy Butler with 20 points. Caleb Martin with 15. Bam had 14. I mean, it seemed like it was a very, you know, hey, we're gonna let everybody kind of get their thing done last night, and it was a team win for Miami. But let me say this for the record: I am a
Sure.
LeBron James diehard fan. Love LeBron.
Oh, you would be.
I love LeBron. Okay, and I know
LeBron.
people kill me for that, but I do root. Obviously, like I grew up in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is I always enjoyed college basketball more than the NBA. And when I was young, I was a big Muggsy Bogues fan. I enjoyed watching.
Well, if you grew up in North Carolina, you should be a diehard Jordan fanboy. Like,
I am
don't
not
let
a
these LeBron people.
no. LeBron. See, I'm 33.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I grew up watching LeBron on ESPN, like high school. So
Yeah.
I grew up. Sports Illustrated covers LeBron this, LeBron. I grew up with the hype of LeBron, and I always thought that he got more hate than he ever deserved.
I don't think he got enough hate.
Oh my God, people like you make me sick, Alex. Just make me sick. Leave that man alone. But what I'll say is, I think that throughout the years, he's definitely gotten. I mean, look, the guy's been doing this for 20 years. And is still a top 5 player in the league. Is he not? He's still a top 5 player in the league.
He's a top 5 whiner also, but yeah.
Oh my God. Really?
Top 5 communist.
We're going to do this? Oh, this is where I wish Solo D was up here with us, because Solo hates me talking about LeBron because I'm a big LeBron fan, and
so Solo's more like me then. He's rational.
LeBron Solo is Miami Heat all day. Let's go Miami, which I'm fine with. I root for the Heat. You see, I have the Heat hat on.
Sure,
but my loyalty right now, I can admit this, is to LeBron. Is to a man. Okay? And I know I'm going to get killed for that. I don't care. Okay? Don't care. What I will say is, man, my phone is blown up for some reason.
Yeah, because you're talking nicely about the biggest fraud in the NBA. So
oh my God. Really, bro? Really, bro? Really? That's what we're going to do? Look, here's the reality. The Lakers aren't going to do anything this year. I think LeBron, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to call something crazy right now. I got a hot take for you.
Ooh, okay.
LeBron doesn't finish his career in LA.
I don't think that's a hot take. I mean, just his pattern of behavior, because LeBron wants to show everyone. He
I'm gonna do
wants to
you
show
one
everyone,
better.
I am the brand. Like, no team that I play for is the brand. I am the brand.
I'm gonna do you one better. You ready?
Yeah.
He's gonna finish it in Miami.
I don't want him back.
He's gonna finish it here in Miami.
You think so? Not Cleveland?
Nope. He will finish it in Miami because
Hmm.
Pat Riley will take him back. Pat Riley will take him back in a minute. Pat Riley will take him back.
I mean, at this point, he's a discount Jimmy Butler.
He's not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to give him a max deal. And he automatically makes your team better. So, like, why
when do you think
not?
this is going to happen? Like 2, 3?
No, I'll be
year?
honest with you. I could see it happening this offseason. If it
Really?
doesn't happen this offseason, next offseason. Two things. LeBron's playing for at least another 3 years because he wants to play with his son in the NBA.
That's a good point.
He wants to play with his son in the NBA. And I don't think it's going to work out well for him with the Lakers. And I know he wants to do the whole Hollywood thing, but he knows he can do that from wherever. He can. So like, he loves South Beach. He loves South Beach. So I could 100% see him going to Miami. But yeah, that's my hot take, man. I think LeBron doesn't finish his career with the Lakers, and he finishes it in Miami. I don't think he goes back to Cleveland.
I wonder about that.
Just put that in the back of your mind. Just put that in the back of your mind.
I'm gonna put it there, and I'm gonna let it marinate, and then maybe we'll revisit that next week, because I'm open to any idea. But I think you did say something that I think was correct. For as upset as I think Pat Riley was with the way LeBron left, I think Pat can put that aside for the greater good. Like, I don't think Pat is the type to say, like, oh, you're barred from ever playing here again. Like, and also the thing about Riley loves a great like redemption. Not this, redemption may not be the right word, but like Riley loves like the whole putting things aside, because like he loved being able to bring Dwayne Wade back, right? That was pretty beautiful, because things got messy. Like when Wade left, it was messy between Wade and Riley, and then they were able to cast that aside when he came back. So I can see Riley being into that sort of thing. Hey, I want to remind everybody before we wrap it up here in a couple minutes, do us a solid, smash that like button. I hope you're enjoying the debut episode of the Double Ds. We'll be with you every Monday here at this time on the Miami Sports Music Channel, Mondays at 9:30 a.m. So smash the like button, hit that super chat, and donate to the channel if you can. Sign up to become a Miami Sports Music YouTube member. And Steven, why don't you let people know, because you do this a lot better than I do, because there's so much programming on Miami Sports Music. Let the people know what else they can see throughout the week.
I mean, look, Clock Blockers returns every Tuesday through Friday starting at 9 a.m., home of the #1 Miami fan morning show, hosted by yours truly, Stephen D. Make sure you check it out. Also, I want to remind you all, tomorrow night, Miami Sports Music Power Hour. That'll be live at 8 p.m. Hell Fins, if you speak a little Espanol, at 9 p.m. And then Wednesday night at 10 p.m., the Fins Tailgate Show with our guy, Chris, El Capitan. And then Friday night for those gamblers. And then let me tell you, there was some crazy spreads this weekend.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it is covering the spread. So that was great too. And then I just want to remind you all, on tomorrow's show of Clock Blockers, my man Daniel Oyefusi will be on, of the Miami Herald, doing his Dolphins report. And then on Wednesday, I'm super excited because I'm going to have Xavier Scruggs on from ESPN. We're going to do a baseball segment. We're going to talk about the lockout. We're going to talk a little bit about the Miami Marlins, but we're just going to talk about the lockout in general and kind of where we're moving forward for Major League Baseball, because I want to go to opening day, man. I'm thinking about flying down, Alex, for opening day, and maybe we can do that together. That'd be fun. And then
let's get to a Marlins game before they're mathematically eliminated. Opening day
before they're mathematically eliminated. I like it. And then I got a Panthers update with a friend of both of ours, Alex, David DeWork. He'll be live at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So this is Wednesday's show, but tomorrow's show is my man Daniel, and we're going to talk all Dolphins football tomorrow. So that will be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys check that out.
And if you guys are able to check me out on another platform where I do a ton of shows on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Shout out to 5 Reasons Sports, baby.
Shout them out, my friends. Yeah, I go on daily, 3 p.m. It's a show we call Donno Daily. Lately, I've been talking a lot. I mean, it's a South Florida sports show, so we talk plenty of Dolphins, plenty of Heat, plenty of Miami Hurricanes. That's the big three for me. We've been talking mostly Dolphins lately because the Dolphins give us a lot to talk about, whether it's incompetence or semi-confidence. They give us a lot to talk about. So we'll be chatting about the Dolphins coaching search. We'll be chatting NFL playoffs today. And we'll talk about some of the Jim Harbaugh rumors and all that. So check us out 3 p.m. today. I am your real dad. Check the DNA test. It's in. I am your real father. So check it out. Donno Daily, 3 p.m. Monday through Friday on 5 Reasons Sports Network YouTube. Steve, this is some of the most fun I've had in a long time, my friend. And
this was great.
We'll do it again next week, 9:30 a.m. And huge shout out to everybody in the live chat. And a huge shout out to all the super chats we got today as well. Shout out to Epps, who was I don't know. I've been told I'm actually crazy for liking Epps, but
no, you're not. Epps is cool. I do like Epps. Although this Estefan guy saying Donno over Steven. Get out.
I don't even think he means that. I know Estefan loves to press our buttons. He comments on my Donno Daily show as well.
Just kidding.
See, I knew Epps.
We love Estefan. We love Estefan. Estefan's pretty cool. And Epps, they're both great. Hey man, look, we're gonna do this again next Monday. And by the way, you're gonna help me upload this bad boy.
Yes, sir.
So you guys are gonna be able to replay this entire episode from start to finish. And hopefully we'll have the information for you on that in the next day or two. But as soon as we get off here, you're gonna help me upload this bad boy. And bro, I'm super excited, man. This is the start of a great many episodes, except when you're supposed to watch a show. Watch the show.
Yeah.
Ozark.
I'm going to cancel some plans later today so I can watch Ozark. We'll make it happen.
I love you, brother. You're the man. Super excited.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next time on another episode of Donno and Daniel's Double D here on Miami Sports Music.